So this is the merciful last section of this. Again, this is sponsored by Bradley, who sent me some money so I can get my meds. Dedicated to, as well, the Patreons. Bradley's a Patreon supporter as well, and the people who've been there supporting me for months, number of months. Jacqueline, Pam, people are there for a while, and some people, they kind of scoot out, but people have been staying, have been happy at Patreon. They've been sticking around for a while. I mean, how many months successive months can you really support someone? So that's why I get to keep doing these and say, hey, come on over to Patreon. Be a supporter over there for a few months, help out, do your thing, longer if you can. That's great. Even 1 month, whatever. I need to get my mobile home, my modular home, mobiler home. I need to be more mobile than in this home. I need a more mobile than in this home. Oh, all right. So this is once again, this is a video of my own personal experiences here. My source material is me, my life, my crappy life as a technician working as a whore for $1, slave wage whore for $1. In some cases, it was $1. Or get paid nothing. Worked for people in exchange for a dresser or a mirror or an amplifier or whatever. I won't say it. So, I haven't always gotten paid for the work I've done. Sometimes I've done something just because it was broken, take it away, you can have it, and I worked on it, and I have 3 computers around the place now that are exactly like that. I found them floating around, like, oh, okay. They work. So yeah, they work, onward and upward. This is, again, this is my experience as a technician, and this is me. I'm hoping that this can be a good service to people in explaining to folks how technicians work. I personally watch a lot of how-to videos. I like documentaries. I prefer nonfiction anything. This earth is fictiony enough. Ciphering through what's a theory from what I know is true. Here in YouTube land, it's community. Starts being a familiarity of videos and stuff around. It's people's everyday lives, right? This is like every man from 1500. I can't even go into this at this point because it's just too much. But there's a play called Everyman in the late 1500s. And it was this revolutionary thing of a play about just John Q. Public. And at the time, everything was about gods and princes and kings and all of that. So the idea of having a play about every man, right, was revolutionary. It was mind-blowing. Who would want to see that? Well, Waiting for Godot, right? You have a couple hundred years later, and, Andy Warhol at some point, almost 100 years ago, 70, whatever years ago, 60, 70 years ago, Andy Warhol says that everyone in the future, everyone will have 5 minutes of fame, right? I mean, this is the Aquarian age where everyone gets 5 minutes of fame. Well, what do you do with it, right? So there's a lot of people that have of their worth, who they are, their skill set, have done great, wonderful videos, of all kinds of stuff, right? Their life, the everyday person has done a lot of videos and have channels on just their everyday life and what they do that may actually be fascinating. Someone living in a Ford Bronco, actually, that's fucking fascinating. Yeah, it's just one person living in one van, but wow. One of my favorite channels is Vice Grip Garage. Guy Derek, he goes around the country he buys vehicles sight unseen that he likes, whether or not they drive, knowing that a lot of them probably don't drive, but he goes there on location and gets them to drive. This is alchemy at its finest. And he calls the spark plug wires, lightning wires, the lightning whirler, the fuel make it happener, the go juice, it's just, the bug in your teeth juice, just whatever. This is a song and dance of type. He's explaining to you how things work, but in a language that like anyone can really understand. You may not know it's a point system with a rotor. He calls it the lightning twirler. All right, you can wrap your head around that. I love that. I love that. But all of the videos, everyone does this great stuff, and I have in my playlists a lot of these videos from people that have explanations of how stuff works, and how people do stuff. I haven't come across a video that explains the technical from tech why, where and more for, with the technical side and why it's difficult to explain it to people in everyday terms and keep the technical language. Even though, we might like to, it's like in order to really truly convey it, you have to actually use fun code names that mean something over and above the material name itself, if that makes sense. So I'm hoping that all right, back on track. And I'm hoping that this is a service to certainly my subscribers, but to people in general, anyone that comes across this video. I'm hoping it's received as a service, public service to you to understand the technical kind of side of it that you may not have actually had any experience with. Not only talk about it from the language, why it's difficult from my side, but I'm trying to give people an understanding of what it's like from the technician, and to speak in just general terms, and not in, as some of the videos I see, the mechanical problems videos where the technician may talk a little bit, kind of, I don't even know what the right word is, but diminutive maybe, I don't know. But, I'm not putting blame, this isn't, a broken thing and blah, 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 or anything like that. This is, simply a service from me, from my heart to you, to explain the technician's angle of how we look at stuff, what the culture of, technologists and technicians is behind the scenes. In the honor of the age of Aquarius, all is revealed, everyone gets to, their couple minutes of fame. And, speaking on behalf of the technicians, as a technician who's worked many years behind the scenes, not making videos about how things are made, meaning, not famous for doing any of the, stuff. I had just wanted to offer a general sense, like I said, a general sense of the technician and what it's like on our end and what we would like from the public. You're always talking about, you see a lot of videos, oh, I don't want to be, bamboozled and swindled by the technician, by the mechanic, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, speaking from the technician's end, this is what we go through. And what I would like to share with you, and how this relates to Schumann resonances and the spectrogram. Right? Because at this point, 2+ years into this, I am now a technician of the Schumann resonances, and certainly explaining this to people on the engineering level, having to depend on my engineering writing skills of how to present this to people on the everyday level. So you can wrap your head around what's going here on a technical level and not be bored and go over to the Disney version. All right. So this expression, beware of the con and everything. This was someone who's a used car salesman who, told me that. He had a really lovely vision of blah, 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 where we explained about that. But that's one of the things that he had said is beware of the con and everything. And he also gave me some hints for how to negotiate at a used car dealership. That was very useful, so beware of the con and everything. It's the Pisces age, right? That's what this is. One fish going one way, one fish going the other way. It's extremely important for folks to start seeing the influence of the Piscean age as we're now exiting it. Let me present this to you. Confounding of the language that I talk about with the Tower of Babel. Pretty sure I mentioned it earlier, the Tower of Babel, the confounding of the language. The gods came down, the people were making a tower, the landlords came back from wherever they were going. They came back, saw that the tenants had made a crazy tower. They got mad, and so they confounded the language and turned people into blithering idiots amongst each other, right? They couldn't start talking. I don't know, it doesn't say how long the process it took, but it probably didn't take too long for it that none of the groups could talk to each other. the people pitching the stones couldn't talk to the people making the mortar and the clay, and we're gonna start giving you this system for how to measure stuff here, and regimented it, and so I would dare say that that was part of the advent, the coming in of the Piscean age 3,000 years ago. So I'm gonna roughly put the age of the Phoenicians. This is a lot of this is phonetic, so we're talking about roughly about 3,000, 3,500 years ago. Maybe 4,000 years ago is the onset of where language got messed up, but it's only fairly recently. If we can assume, for the sake of this discussion, the flood was the quaternary, they call that. Divide 2,600 into 4 points, quarters, you get 6,000. So somewhere around 7,000 years. One of the last catastrophe that there was the flood. So within the last 7,500 years, that's been the history, that's the story, this last epic of mankind, 7,500 years. So somewhere roughly half that, 4,000 years, after the flood, boom, roughly half that, start of the Piscean age, we have the mingling of crap into the language. So this was part of the Piscean age, part of the divine plan, blah, blah, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Supposed to happen. Hard to believe that it did, whatever. All right. Part of the fall of mankind. How does it happen? Like, I don't know, code gets introduced into the overall system, and it works like a mutation, by mutation, virus or something. Words can be that way. It doesn't take too long for it to start infecting the head. 7 generations into it, like, you're just left with vestigial remnants of what was there. It's there, it means something at a deep substantial level, but not the full spectrum of meaning and level that it would have, had it not been confounded, the language not been confounded into babble. So now the gravity of the immediate age is not so incipient, so we're moving out of, we're in the vacating period, the eviction process. I'm not sure what the word is, but exiting from one to the other. There's a short period of time where it's a DMZ, where it's in between the official end of one, everything is officially recognized as the end of one, but the official beginning of the new one hasn't started yet. Even though even though we're still, we're in a transition period at this point of going from the 2012 portal to 2024 portal, 12 years there of changeover of all the accounts coming in, all the satellites have to come in, everyone has to do their thing, and the wrap up of the last one would be, Pluto, essentially. Pluto comes in 2026, actually. The 2024 is everything else. That's when the presidency actually officially ends. 250 years from the Declaration of Independence. Boom. That point marks it. Boom. That's coming up 2026, right? So that, and boom. But that's a 250, that's Pluto return, 250 years, right? You got to remember that. That's the very last account coming in for cashing in. Boom. When that ends, it's like, oh yeah, we're on. It's 100% full tilt boogie at that point. All right. Because we're exiting the Pisces age, that's what this rush to be woke is, right? The army, the military, oh, they got to be woke. Why? That's not what you guys do. You blow people up. You're not woke. The military is not ever supposed to be woke. No, honey. What happened? The military has an identity crisis? The U.S. military has an identity crisis of what it is, what it's supposed to be doing all of a sudden. You're putting a human face to, oh my, oh yeah, no, it's officially over, right? No, it's officially fucking over. However, all the accounts still haven't come in, the military being one of them. Right? The military is hiding in the woke status. No one's going quietly, no one's going silently into that good night. There is lots of stuff that was working fairly well. There was a lot of stuff. There was enough stuff that was working fine as it is that we can still keep those intact, yet as everything around it's breaking down, there's a lot of stuff that's getting thrown under the bus. Like, everything's breaking down. Science is getting in question, education, the gender, everything, just everything. As the water of the Aquarian age is coming in, everything's getting dissolved. the bonds and bands and boundaries that what were there, that was there, is just getting whatever is not built with heart or had been built with heart is getting, just dissolved. Even you see things that are getting just wrecked from seemingly random acts of, the planet, even a tree just happens to fall, whether it's through people's idiocy of not knowing how a tree is going to fall or how to control the tree falling. I watch a lot of idiots at work fails video, common everyday people that have cranes. Companies that hired cranes. They have a crane working and the crane fails. And just in, John Q. public land, everywhere. It's, it is dissolving on the middle of the country, most averagest everyday person. It's all equalizing. I'll just put it that way. What do I mean by there is enough good stuff? I guess there's enough good stuff. All right. So there are things that, like the radio itself is working. We've moved from that. We've moved from AM, FM radio. I guess it's hard to kind of talk about some of this stuff without getting nostalgic. Some of this old technology that we still have still works fine. It still works great. As the more, I don't know, not to seem apocalyptic about this, but kind of, as we go further on into things, more stuff breaks down, shit starts happening. There's winds up being this stuff in museums that they don't know what it did or what it is, that winds up actually being, you start seeing it's what it's useful for now. As the technology and everything that you plug in starts kind of going haywire and you're left with things that don't need batteries or power, there's enough things that had been working fine as it was, and they just got surpassed by something superior, more technically advanced, that at a certain point we may reach the end of the line for electrical technology because it is so out of balance with the natural order. Right? I would say as well that it's important to remember that the poles are shifting, and that's creating a differential change. And as electronics electronics plugged into, the power grid with the earth as the ground, and that ground potential changes, electronics don't work successfully the way that they had been. That's why there's such a, oh, good golly, why there's such a push for you every, year to upgrade your phone, upgrade your technology, not just because they're selling this shit to you. It's because a lot of the older stuff that had been working isn't really working anymore. And so this is something that we're facing, that the more complex technology isn't going to be more effective, efficient, or longer lasting. There's a lot of what I will call hardcore science, like a telescope, for example, just an optical telescope. That's may not seem like the pinnacle of technology, but ground the lens in a telescope, especially a nice big one, ground the lens, mirror the lens of a telescope. So there's a mirror, there's one lens usually, and then there's another lens outside that kind of focuses everything. They're not, a lot of times not very expensive, but they're like, wow, telescopes are what I call, hardcore science, because there's a technological advancement that came with it, which, and the antennas for the Schumann resonance antennas, another one of those hardcore things. Radio broadcast antennas prior to 5G. A lot of radio broadcast hardware, antennas, detectors, receivers, these kind of things. I don't have an old Kenwood, but I have had an old Kenwood that's an analog tuner, AM, FM, and I still collect them, but they're not around anymore. Entertainment uses a lot of science, technology kind of stuff in there, scientific principles put into action with technology. So that's kind of what my Sony receiver is. My $40 receiver I got when I was asking the universe, hey, give me a receiver, and I only got $40. So as everything's breaking down, there's a lot of, science, and me explaining to you the Schumann resonances, hardcore science is what I'm talking about, the nuts and bolts of how it's made, and these guys going through experimentation and the trial and error that comes with putting an antenna in the right place and getting it all up and working. This is what we might call hardcore science. It's getting penalized by people who are looking for the fun song and dance version in what is otherwise a boring field of radio and broadcast. So as I explain to people how, the Schumann resonances properly work, and, I get a lot of people that are thanking me. Thank you for explaining this properly. I didn't know, I didn't understand. Okay, that's fine. But as I've talked about earlier in this, there is a presumption coming into this of a belief or spiritual system, philosophy, where people are not willing to take in new information, the technical side of this, of how this physically actually technically works, from the accepted and standard engineering protocols. And because I haven't used the word ascension energy, 5D, 5G, gamma, any of that, I'm called out as being some type of a fake, or I'm misleading the people by not telling them, what's really going on. So there is this level of the Disney side, as it were, as I explained this, the fantasy version being vindictive, cancel culture at your service, of being vindictive of, or angry of, or resentful, or hostile, or I'm not sure what the word is, but I think you get the picture, over me not entertaining the notion of the standard rhetoric of ascension energies or 5D gamma or blah, 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 whatever. So because I'm not bringing the ascension 5D gamma energy in there as an explanation of what you're seeing, standard science gets penalized as a result of that. Like, I'm representing, who are you? And blah, blah, blah. That's why I'm doing this. I'm doing a 2+ hour video of explaining who I am as a technician and our end of this, and why I would love to explain to you much more complicated shit about this. However, it depends on where a person is coming into this as to what you can accept, what logical holes in the head still exist that is able to be filled with the actual technical explanation of what's going on. There's a certain gravity of the population looking for the spectrogram to have a special spiritual and religious meaning, which was never designed to have, nor is it possible to even build an ascension energy detector, an ascension energy antenna. I'm not sure what that would look like. People use the phrase ascension energy, although there is no truth to this phrase. Truth comes through agreement. There's not an agreement over the inherent meaning of that phrase. It's just a word that's used, and there's an assumed meaning by people that what it means. I'll use this, and you know what it means. But there's not an agreement. You can't nail someone down and ask them what exactly are. Explain this technically what ascension energies are. I haven't found anyone that can give me any of that. They use gamma, sure, 5D. They use these other words that also have equally no meaning. They're a nebulous word that you throw it at me. Well, you know what that means, and well, actually, I do know what that means, and it's significantly different from what you think. And I'll explain to you what 5D is. But first, I need to ask you: when you use the letter D, do you mean fifth density, or is it fifth dimension, or do you think they're the same? We're talking about 5D ascension energy. Is it fifth density or fifth dimension? Do you know the difference? Do you think there's a difference between the two? And if so, if I give you a much significantly different version of what you think 5D is, are you going to argue with me? Oh, that's not what it is. It doesn't matter. Because there is no standard whatever as to what 5D is. Outside of me, I will humbly submit, there isn't a definition of what 5D actually means, because there isn't a thing you can look at. There is no hands-on, there is no experiential truth with ascension energies with 5D, right? And they don't even know if it's fifth density or fifth dimension, 5D, ascension energy, all of that, gamma, all of that. They're just words. They're just words that get used. Buzzwords, catchwords, taglines, right? That's what these are. The gestures. These phrases are rhetorical gestures that are just used as taglines, or just used to get your attention. Clickbait, if you will. Ascension energy, right? This phrase is one of the many that is used as a gesture for the people to recognize their flock, the sheep to recognize their flock. These phrases tickle the ear. And that's what they do. They give your ears the goody-goody feeling. This is one of the problems that people face in looking for the correct, proper solution in this area. The use of the gestural rhetoric in place of meaningful dialogue. So that's the best way that I can put that. The substitution of gestural rhetoric or rhetorical gesture in place of meaningful dialogue. Like if if you disagree with me, that's fine. You can put in the comments what your view of ascension energy is. If you're one of those folks that have that view, you can define how you want 5D. That's fine. Put it in the comments. You can let everyone, kind of take a gander of it. If you think it's there, if you feel there is some standardized definition to those phrases, that's fine. Please put it in the comments and let me know, because that I have seen in the two plus, almost 3 years of dealing with just the Schumann resonances, no one's able to give me that. It's just, and they point to the, oh, that's ascension. No, that's not. That's your amplitude. And I explain it to people. Like, you can't, no one has given me any type of standardized definition of what it is outside of pointing to something on the spectrogram and saying, oh, that's what it is. Right? So, and these are the links to, I posted this online. And I think what I also do is I have, for the record, I have a separate YouTube description, the document here, right? And I post it on Patreon and I post it on the website, as it's a little different. The one that I do the video from, it's different, and I see things in here and I'll correct them. And so the other versions are fine. The one on the website that's there already, I'm leaving that, but then I'll post another one. So even though it seems like there's a few, there's a couple, even though it seems like I posted the same thing a few times, it's a different version. You got to look at the title. I'll put in YouTube YTDESC in the title, so it's the YouTube version of this, because it's also got the time stamps for the music as well. And I'll arrange it a little different way for the YouTube video. And as I do these kind of writing things, I arrange everything. I've said this before. I arrange them all. Each time I post it, it's a little different version, corrections, blah, blah, blah. I don't go back to the other one and make it perfect. I just kind of move on to the next one and correct the version. There you go. Okay, even if you already read it, it's better to read it again and, get more out of it, all right. So this ends at whatever total time, so I got to stitch all this. I'm going to put this in. I got to put this in the editing program, stitch it together. I'll come up with some shorts. I always say I'm going to do this, but I'm definitely going to do this time. I'm going to put in some shorts, and I will, post it, and then I'll do the overall long one in a few days when I get it all, done. But I think I'm going to cut it up because it's already cut up. I'm going to make some little teasers from this and then post and this is my work, so it's important for me to present this, I'm giving my work. This is my thing. And I need to be here present for this, because this is my life. This is my work. This isn't anyone else's work, and so I could write a book. Support me, everyone. Help me get my mobile home, and help me write a book.